So yesterday was the final day of campaigning in the UK for the general election, and Boris Johnson, to avoid giving an interview, went and hid inside of a fridge. Man, you can't make this up. Like, I saw this on Twitter, and then I just scrolled past because it didn't register with my brain that this was real. But of course, it's completely in character for Boris. And let's take a look at the clip, okay? Let's take a look.
Will you come on Good Morning Britain, Prime Minister? I've just had... Prime Minister, will you come on Good Morning Britain and deliver on your promise to talk to Piers and Susanna? We're ready to go. We're live on ITV right now. Prime Minister, we have an earpiece in my pocket. You're more than welcome to come on. There we go. Prime Minister, will you deliver on your promise to come on Good Morning Britain?
Of course I will.
Thank you very much. Will you do that this morning for us?
Is that all right now? Is that going to fall off?
No. Mr. Johnson, why do you have 5 minutes? You're live on Good Morning Britain. Could you talk to Piers and Susanna for me?
I'll be with you in a second.
Yeah, I have an earpiece here in my hands, ready to go. Right, he's been taken inside, into the freezer.
He's gone into the fridge.
There's a bunker.
It's very heroic work,
so far, isn't it?
That was heroic work.
That was brilliant. So Boris Johnson, he had agreed to come on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan, okay? And he didn't show up. So what did they do? They sent a camera crew to him, and they were ready to go live, okay? They had the equipment on, they had the gear, everything ready to go. And he was put in a corner. So what did he do? He went and he hid inside of a fridge. This is so typical of Boris Johnson. I mean, you guys know what he's been doing. You know, he's getting stuck on a zip line, and then he's tackling a kid during a rugby match. He's always doing silly crap like this, okay? I actually think it's a facade. I think that under the veneer, under the veil, I don't think he's such a likable, funny person. But his public persona is a bit of a silly guy, okay? He does stuff like this. It's very in character for Boris Johnson. And let me remind you that he also ducked out of an interview with Andrew Neil. So not only did he avoid going on Good Morning Britain with Piers Morgan, he also didn't show up to the interview with Andrew Neil on the BBC. And this is very important. That is way worse. Do you know why that's way worse? Let me explain to you. Everyone went on Andrew Neil. Jeremy Corbyn, Labour Party, Joe Swinson, Liberal Democrats, and then Sturgeon for the SNP, Scottish National Party. They all went on Andrew Neil's show, and Andrew Neil is very tough. He made Ben Shapiro cry. Do you remember when Ben Shapiro threw a fit and called him a liberal? Andrew Neil is anything but a liberal. The guy is friends with Murdoch. Okay, he is a right-winger, 100%. But Ben Shapiro lost it because he can't handle British-style interviewing because he's a fucking baby who goes on college campuses because he's not used to being asked real questions. And he threw a fit and he stormed off the show. Now, if Corbyn went on Andrew Neil and got grilled, it's normal for Andrew Neil to grill people. So we expected that. I don't think Jeremy Corbyn did too well. But we need to see the same thing happen to Boris Johnson for it to be fair. You can't just see one leader of one major party getting grilled and then not the other. That's not fair. And the BBC, I think they did this on purpose. Instead of waiting until they had secured all the interviews, Swinson, Sturgeon, Corbyn, and Boris Johnson, no. They were like, oh, we got the Corbyn one? Okay, let's just air them. And never mind if Boris Johnson comes or not, because we don't want him to look bad. We don't want him to get grilled by Andrew Neil. Let's not hold the Prime Minister accountable. That's their logic. So, very typical, very in character of Boris Johnson to shirk any kind of scrutiny and pull a stunt like this. I'm honestly not surprised at all. And by the way, the memes were pretty lit. I saw some good memes, man. One of you guys sent me this one. Boris Johnson calls an emergency cabinet meeting. Imagine waking up and checking the news and the top story is Boris Johnson hides in fridge to avoid questions and thinking, yep, there's my man. He's got my vote this Thursday. Boris Johnson desperately pulling at his fridge door to avoid scrutiny from Piers Morgan on GMTV. So there you go, man. I just think that this is typical of Boris Johnson. You know, he knows that he can't really answer any tough questions, because when we did see him on ITV, when we did see him on the BBC debates, he answered every single question with, let's get Brexit done. That's all he has. That's his tagline. So that's all he's proposing. Let's get Brexit done. But then you look at what Labour is proposing: infrastructure, NHS, taking back public ownership for rail, mail, water, energy. These are two completely different platforms. You know, the Tories aren't proposing anything. Nothing would fundamentally change. Do you get what I'm saying? So he would answer any question with, let's get Brexit done. That doesn't work with Andrew Neil. Andrew Neil would have done him good. And probably, I assume if he had went on with Piers Morgan, it wouldn't have gone well for Boris Johnson either. So, of course, he's going to shirk them. And man, hiding in the fridge. Dude, I can just imagine Boris Johnson, that Eton schoolboy voice in his head. Quick, let's go hide in the fridge, old boy. They can't find you in there. Lots of nice goodies. Milk. By the way, if you're wondering why he was carrying boxes of whatever, juice and milk and stuff, when there's a general election in the UK, typically what happens is that you will see the leaders of each party going off and doing things like that, you know, doing a little bit of appearances, community work, and you know, helping out in the community, doing interviews in schools, stuff like that. You know, that at least Jeremy Corbyn did that. We know that he did that. Boris Johnson, not too much. This is more of like a PR stunt. Oh, look at me, I'm carrying a few crates, I'm helping, you know. So there you go. So anyway, voting is underway as we speak. The United Kingdom is voting. We shall see what transpires there, boy. Dude, I don't know what to expect. You know, the polls yesterday still had the Conservatives in a lead, a narrow lead. It's shrunk. Before, everyone was saying, oh, the Conservatives, the Tories, they're going to win by a landslide. But now they're saying something different. They're saying that they're going to win still, but by a much narrower margin. Okay? So we'll see what happens, man. I think it's too tough to call. Like I said in my previous video, when I made my prediction, I think the Tories are going to win. I'm preparing for the worst. However, if it were to come to a hung parliament, I wouldn't be surprised. Meaning that no one has a clear majority, and most likely you'll have to have a coalition government or a minority government. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. It's happened twice already in the last decade. All bets are off, man. And this is truly a pivotal moment. It's really an important election because you've got two issues rolled into one. You don't just have Brexit on the one hand, you also have the future of the country. You know, the Tories are just saying like, yeah, we're not really going to do anything. And Labour is proposing a revolution, basically, an end to austerity, all the infrastructure revamped. As I've said before, I'm not going to go through all the points again, but you know what I'm saying. So it is two elections rolled into one, essentially. That's why it's so important. So we have to see what happens. Not much time to go, man. You know, we're going to have the results in less than 24 hours now. So it's going to be an all-nighter for sure.